Hey everyone, welcome to the Backyard Peace Project. We're having our little coaching session today, which is always fun, just to catch up with everyone in the community, but also to, I don't know, dive into different things in life and how we, I guess, integrate different tools into our life, but also how do we, I guess, navigate through. Well, today's theme is about navigating through burnout, so breaking through into a state of from pressure to presence. And how do we do that? So there's so many things that happen in our life, and where it could be happening could be in your health, in your well-being, in your relationships, just in general, um, navigating through life, especially with family, children, all different aspects that come with that. And so today I wanted to look into, I guess, patterns that we might be running that sort of, if we can recognize them, it helps us to work through it. So the key is a lot of stuff that I like to teach is about awareness. If we're so busy just getting on with life and just pushing and pushing and pushing, sometimes that awareness doesn't fit into our world. Or we're not aware because we're just going gung ho the whole time. So the awareness part is about pulling yourself back or recognizing certain patterns in yourself when leaning into burnout. So there's a lot of people that I work with that are in high pressure positions tend to not recognize until it's too late. And so what we want to go through today is to share some opportunities that how do you catch it before? How do you work with stress as your general life, there's a lot of pressures that happen. How do you work with your stress and your pressures so then you can maintain health and well-being mentally and physically? And there's a big gauge into what that looks like. And so as we, I guess, dive into what this may mean is checking in with your body first. A lot of times we go, okay, we need to mentally figure things out or set up strategies to work through the system. But unless we're regulated within our body and without our nervous system, the rest is really, really hard. You may get there, but it takes a lot longer to achieve that, I guess, peace within the pressure, that presence of understanding and clarity and focus around being able to keep working. Because sometimes we have to. Sometimes we have to keep the ball rolling. We have to keep bringing income in to support the family, support yourself, your businesses. So it's about when we're going through these challenges, what are the stages that we can take and maintain so then it doesn't take us too far and our body shuts down, our body breaks down, and we go into different states of misalignment, could be fear or just fatigue that sort of brings up in this space. So that's sort of, I guess, the outline of what I wanted to bring in today. Show of hands who's ever been through a little bit of stress or burnout in their life. Yeah, so it's everyone has their own story and own space within that, but at the end of the day, we're all human, and that's what I love about in the Backyard Peace Project is that we're working for, I guess, bringing peace from within for everyone. It's not just one shoe fits everybody. We all have different experiences in our life, and so I guess having you guys here is like hearing your experiences if you're okay to share, but you don't necessarily have to, but you might say, I've been through a couple of things, but this is how I navigated through that as well. So it's through some form of, could be recently, could be in the past, could be small, could be big, but it's like these abilities that we can share and offer in a space where people can take on simple tools to help them. Even if we help one person, that's what matters. And it's as being human, we'll have nervous systems and we know different tools to calm ourselves down. Some people without these tools either go into numbing in certain ways. It might be distracting themselves, getting into the doom scroll, using other forms of substance to do that as well, or getting super, super, I guess excited is not the word, but overdoing things to distract themselves. That's probably the main thing is coming
Like the high
towards.
stimulation sort of thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
You
it's
know
like,
what stood out for me when you said that? Sorry, didn't mean to
okay,
interrupt you, Paul.
yeah, okay,
Um,
good.
when you were talking, I was just something came up for me where I thought this is really interesting because I had a friend of mine who, when we first met, said to me, this is like a really crazy. We met in a really crazy period of my life, and it was basically the week where I was speaking at the Opera House, and my fourth book was coming out, and there was a lot going on. And then sort of there was the observation made from my friend who said, "Well, this seems to be the norm for you. You know, I thought I met you in a really crazy time, but this is really." And it wasn't even said with any judgment, just as an observation. And I thought it's really interesting what other people perceive when they look at my life as stressful or intense. For me, it's an absolute norm, and I don't perceive it as stressful. And I think it's also the soul parenting thing that comes in for me straight away when I think about my life. It's like I'm so used to doing everything on my own, and I never feel like, oh my God, my life's so hard. I don't look at it like that. I never do. I don't come from a victimhood perspective. I go, it's like, this is my life. I'm getting on with it, and I'm doing things until I feel that burnout moment. And this is why I so wanted to come here today. I think I wanted to bring this in early because I come in because I feel like there's definitely still a lot to learn for me in the in terms of discovering it early, detecting it early, and what to do then. Because I feel through the couple of burnout moments that I had in my life, and a big one of that was when I decided to archive my group. I had the group Loving Life After Loss. I ran it for 5 years. I took about 5,000 people on a healing journey. And that all sounds like, I took 5,000 people on a healing journey. But when you think about that, the space that I held, when I'm now looking at it from an outside perspective, I'm like, that was incredible. That was amazing. And this is not saying that to be my own drama or anything, but I got into such a burnout at the end because I was constantly holding space for others that I know now I discovered that way too late. So for me, what I would love to get out of today's session is to actually see what are the signs that I could have detected earlier, because I think I still have a lot to learn with that. And that's why I wanted to share that. I feel it is where's our life at? How do we perceive it? I perceive my life as this is just a norm, and I'm absolutely okay with that. And then there's also that, is our nervous system so used to being busy and thinking this is meant to be successful or whatever? And where can I see those steps in between where I could calm down a little bit more? Because for me, the answer is always like, all right, take some time out, look after your nervous system, listen to the message within. Because I feel when I'm in burnout, when I'm too busy, I don't stop anymore to listen. That's what gets me into burnout. This is my perception, and maybe there's something that I'm missing. So I'm completely coming with an open mind to soak it all up. I'm like, teach me. I was waiting. I'm like, I tried to get in before Philippa because I know she's got so much to share about that. And that's why I thought I wanted to bring this in early. There we go. Handing
Amazing.
over
Thank you.
to you. You're
Yeah.
sitting here for me. I don't know where you sit for everybody else.
um, I feel like the queen of burnout, like I've nailed it. I've done it a few times now, and I think I'm really good at it. Um, and hopefully I never do it again. That's my plan. And it's funny when you were talking, Marie, there was a couple of things that came up with both of you. And one of them was, and as I've said to you before, my keynote is when resilience curdles into resentment, right? This idea that we are so resilient that eventually we burn our whole house down around us because we're just over it, right? And look, that's also otherwise known as perimenopause, but it's like it's kind of it's kind of, but it can happen to anyone, right? Where you are so resilient for so long that eventually it's just like, no, what is this? Um, but I think I've said this before, resilience is somewhere that we go to. So the resilience should be in moments. We shouldn't live in resilience because then we're living a life that doesn't allow for rest and calm and joy and all the other things. And I'm like you, Marie. A couple of years ago, I was so sick of hearing everyone say, "Oh, I'm busy." You'd say, "How are you?" And they'd say, "Busy." And be like, "Fuck off." Like, you're as busy as you want to be, and I just rejected all busyness. I went, "That's it. I'm not saying it ever again." Do I have a lot going on in my life? Yes. Will I always fill it? Yes. But what I choose to fill it with is intentional, and that doesn't make me busy. That makes my life full. And so for me, I've really started being intentional about what I put into that space, because unless I do, I can just get into this busy world, right? Like I could just be busy, but where am I going? I know right now, because of what's happening with my husband, I'm in a creation state. I'm in a state of pulling together and bringing all the pieces in as much as I possibly can. So am I filling my life intentionally more with work and hustle and action? Yep. That's I'm doing it intentionally though, because in a year or two I may need to spend a lot of time caring for him, and I'll be full in a different way. But I'm being intentional about it, which means that there's a purpose, there's a goal, and it actually feels different in my nervous system to
There's
not just
ownership.
be,
That's what I'm
yeah,
hearing. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm not just running for the sake of running. I'm running to a space that then allows for something else. And I
Yeah.
think when we are, and I think Gen X women do this really, really, really well. We're supposed to do everything ourselves. We're supposed to be busy, and we can't ask for help, and we don't lean into that support. And for most of us, I actually saw, and I sent it to myself. I haven't read the full article yet, but I saw it just popped up on my Google. They've discovered that Gen X is the most resilient generation, because they were neglected the most. They were just left to figure shit out on their own. And so through that rejection, that neglect, they've become emotionally resilient. But what I want to look at when I read it fully is that actually a sustainable thing? I don't think so. The clients I work with are like either on the edge of burnout or they're already gone. And they've not raised emotionally resilient children because they've done it all. And what is resilience? If it's like, why is resilience built up on this hill all the time, right? Because we shouldn't be having to perform that all the time. And there
Can
was
I just
something
throw
else I
something
was
in
going
there
to
very
mention.
quickly?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
before
it's
you move
fallen
on
off my
from
plate
that.
anyway, so it's fine. It'll give me
Um,
time to think.
I I love that you just brought that up, because I just saw something pop up for me as well. And I have actually saved it as well because I wanted to get back to it. And it really touched me so deeply, especially with the work that I'm doing, where it said that so often kids in particular are labeled as resilient, where they're actually just really deeply lonely and have learned to be master at masking these emotions. So what we often label as, oh, kids are so resilient, in particular in the grief space we're working, oh, kids are a lot more resilient than you would think. Well, they are really amazing at masking their actual true emotions and hiding them. And I had to learn that the hard way with my own sons as well, because they realize, oh, mom's going through this grief, and or dad or whoever that is in that situation. I'm just talking about my family now. If I now open up with my whole baggage, that would like absolutely drown her. And they become such protectors at such a young age. And then they are so freaking lonely with their true emotions. It broke my heart when I read that, because it rang, unfortunately, way too true for me, and it really hurt. And at the same time, I was so freaking grateful to read that, because now I can open the next layer. Do you know what I mean? And looking at that, I thought, how often do we actually, and how quickly do we label, in particular, children as resilient when they're actually, there are so many other words that I would use for that, but I wouldn't call that resilient. They're just really great at masking. So I just wanted to throw that in there when you brought up that article on Google, because yeah, I'd be actually interested if you don't mind sending that to me as well. I'd love to read it.
Yeah, I'll forward it on. It's interesting because I remember, and it reminded me too, just what you were saying. I remember going to hospital with she would have been, I don't know, 18 maybe at the time, my eldest daughter, and we went into hospital, and it was during COVID times, so you could only have a certain amount of people, etc. But she's, she's neurodivergent. Maybe she was already 18. She might have been. And they put this neurodivergent 18-year-old girl into a room with predominantly older men, and they separated me from her, and they wouldn't let me back in the hospital. And they were telling me she's fine. She's sitting there, she's fine. And I'm like, she is not fine. She is masking to the hilt, and if you don't get me to her, she's gonna collapse. Because I know her, right? And she was like, when I spoke to her, she's like, you got to get me out of here. I can't be here. I can't be here. But so what looks like okay on the outside can be very, very different on the inside if we don't understand what we're looking at. And having burnt out because my underlying core belief was that to be of value, I needed to be doing. It, that belief shaped how I showed up in everything that I did. And it wasn't even about just me. Like, my value does come from just being, but I thought I needed to be doing the whole way. So we as parents, particularly because I got that somewhat from culture, but also from my mum and her love language. If we can, again, I'm bringing it in early today, if we can be curious
I love it.
about why we are doing what we're doing rather than judging ourselves, we can often find that there's something in the back end that's prompting us to behave that way or prompting us to show up that way. Because I just didn't realize. I didn't know that, I just thought I was doing what everybody did. And I'm a generator, right? Like, for me, and I'm ADHD. So for me, go is where I'm at. But I'm choosing that intentionally now. And I think that's the different piece, burnout versus, so it's not compulsive, it's choice driven. And that allows me to also go, well, I'm choosing this. So how do I rest in between? And here, okay, so this is what fell off the plate earlier. If we are, shit's falling off my plate way more with perimenopause than ever before. But anyway, if we're giving from our cup, right, we are always going to be in deficit. If we give from our saucer, the overflow, right, that's where the magic happens, because we're never empty, and so we're just giving from the fullness of our life and our abundance in ourselves, rather than giving from that cup. And I think if we can even just be curious about, where am I giving from today? Where is this coming from? Is this my saucer or is this my cup? That can help you prevent burnout. Yeah, that for me, that's the piece.
As somebody who's a boomer, just on the cusp of these two generations, one of the things around becoming burnt out is that for my generation, and a lot of my clients, they don't even realize that they're burnt out because of the high function, because of the way they were parented and the society that we were raised in and what we saw and experienced. Our nervous systems are so conditioned to being on and high and hypervigilant most of the time. And then you add that to when you talk about resilience, and we weren't just neglected, we were abused as well. The amount of stuff that went on, and still does today, unfortunately, you just became so hardwired and conditioned towards that. One of the things I like to try and balance that out with is when you start to consider, first and foremost, where's it showing up in our bodies? So there's most of us have a space that we send it all to, or it gets channeled through. And for me, it's smack between my shoulder blades. And I know when I start getting a pain in there that I'm in burnout. And often that can take a long time to get to there. But if I'm not doing the daily practice of dropping into pleasure, into joy, and if I can't reach a space where I'm experiencing a measure of pleasure or joy on the daily, it's kind of like the counterbalance at the extreme ends of seesawing of where my burnout's at. If I can't drop into that and actually go, I need to honor my desire to either be in the ocean, stand barefoot in the grass in the sunshine, those things that are so natural, organic, and available to us. They don't require any resource really other than positioning self to experience a measure of joy. Sometimes it can be picking up the phone and having a chat to someone who you know is going to hold your soul so tenderly. And in their presence, you know, you can kind of like just shake it out and move your body a bit more freely. And you get off a phone call going, oh my gosh, that person just sunshine in the cup. So
Love
for
it.
me, it's holding that tension and knowing that we function so brilliantly. We mask, we've been taught all of these things subconsciously, but we engage it subconsciously as well. And they're all in our toolkit. And sometimes you just got to stop, unpack the toolkit, and actually then re-curate what you choose to put into your toolkit that will serve you well in moving forward and out of that place where your whole body is just vibing with nervous energy that stops serving you well and it actually arrests you and you get to the point where you can't function. You stop like maintaining thought processes, remembering things. Yeah, just the simple daily tasks feel like you're dragging an anchor around your middle. So, yeah, I'd go for pleasure and joy as the counterbalance to the burnout.
I
Yeah.
love the measure of pleasure.
Mm,
That's gonna get stuck in my head now all day.
a good one.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
It's such
I
a
think you're
so
right.
important in all the points that we're bringing through. It's like it seems to be like we just if we just bring it back to our values, keep it simple in ourselves, and then aligning with that pleasure and the pressure, because there's in all of that, like stress isn't a bad thing. Too much stress can be the pressure.
Mm,
So there's a thing called eustress, which is where, like Philip was talking about, it's she's aligning what she's got to do. She needs to do these certain things, but it's aligned with her values and her vision and her space that her energy goes with that. It's not burnout. So the other levels is you can either be in low stress, where you're bored, you're unmotivated, you've got low energy, or you're at the other end, you're in high stress where you're burning out, you're having anxiety attacks and overwhelm, breaking
mm,
down. So it's like, how do we find that nice little middle ground of the eustress, which I think it's in Greek means good stress. So it's like when you have for example, you have a deadline, but it's a project that you love and that passion work, but you have a date set at that thing. Um, some people use a lot of time to get up there. Myself, I like to give myself the shortest amount of time, and I get the things done really well, really quick. So it's like having that little bit of pressure puts a bit of stress on you, puts the fire under your butt, and gets you moving. And sometimes if we're slow learners, our body will eventually put that fire on. And that's when it's too late to go, oh, I need to redo quickly. Because there's three sort of main, I guess, areas we're going to look at too is, I guess, all the drivers. There's fatigue when you're starting to feel overly tired, when you're feeling like you can't keep your eyes open, you're constantly feeding yourself coffee and whatnot to stay awake. There's in that space, our body needs recovery because we've been pushing so long, and that's why they say resilience, because you can go through it, but the body only can go so far. It's a super amazing machine that we live in, that it can and bounce back from a lot of different stresses. Yet it needs a rest as well. The second one we go into is fear. So thinking about fear when we're afraid of what's next or what's the unknown. The world's in a state of fear and constantly, recently, and still going. But it's in our bodies, we feel threatened. Our well-being, our health, our livelihood, our community, our families, the threat comes into in our bodies, in nature, in a primal instinct is we need to go harder or we're in a state of fear, and that just holds us back. And then the third one is misalignment. So aligning your actions, aligning your daily movements, your work, your people, your conversations, aligning that with what brings you energy, what helps you find peace, what helps you give you space. Because if we push that too far, if we're misaligned and it doesn't fit our value system, your physical responses, you go into the fear and the fatigue, and that's just a underlying outcome from that. And what we're being taught, like as you guys have been saying, is that our resilience to live, to work, to push through trauma and challenge. The misalignment there is we're not living. Like when Marie was telling her story about, I can't remember the story, but I remember what that brought up for me. It was a while back, but it brought up for me a memory of when I was a kid, and my dad was like working super hard all the time, doing double shifts and overnight, but he'd come home sometimes and we thought he was just angry and tired and frustrated all the time, but obviously he was in a state of burnout because he was supporting his family, but his body was shutting down. And then my brother was a bit older and he just went off and did his own thing. I was the middle child, and then I had a younger sister. She's like 6 years younger than me. And I always saw mum in a state of stress from dad, from having to deal with us, 3 kids. And then at some point, I remember not consciously, but just wanting to save mum. And so I took my sister under my wing, and then I was like, support her and calm her down and keep her quiet. And like, oh, let's distract. So we go, let's go and watch TV, or we'll read a book or something. And then flashing into multiple, timelines, I now see that as the pattern of saving, wanting to save people, and I got into this work, wanting to save people. And like Philippa was saying, you fill your cup, or you just sort of empty. I was emptying my cup by giving so much to so many people that I, for one, forgot who I was, and for two, went into resentment and went complete the opposite direction and going, screw it all, it's all about me now, for a time there, because I pushed so hard in that resilience and the giving, wanting to be a savior. There's an underlying pattern in that, I guess, resilience, to be resilient against emotions, shut my own emotions off so then I could save others, and starting with my family. And it's interesting having these sort of memories to go through and seeing how they play out over time. And I suppose that's where misalignment comes into it, because you push beyond your own beliefs or your own values to serve everybody else and what they believe and what they need and what they want. And it's not an issue. It's not a problem. It's just we just need to bring ourselves back. And so a little process that I like to use for that is called REST, REST. So the first is to regulate, bringing in the movement, going for a swim in the ocean, getting out in nature, doing some breath work, move your body, go and exercise, even if it's a little walk. E is to examine what is actually happening there. Is it fear? Is it fatigue? Am I values not aligned with what I'm doing, what I'm saying, and who I'm being? So I guess it's always about bringing it back to you, back to that awareness piece. And I guess when we get clear on that, it gives an opportunity for select, the S. Do we push harder? Is it aligned with our values where we go forward and do the work? Because we know, as Philip was saying, in a couple of years, she may not have the capacity to continue getting that work done because she needs to set herself up. And so when we've got goals and targets and things that are aligned, then that's when we need that little bit of stress in there to give us a nudge, to give us the energy and to push. Do we pause? I guess the second part of that, do we stop? Regulate, rest, have a nap if you need. I'm a big one for naps. I used to just try to push through, but now I catch myself when I start to fatigue. I'm like, I just go and lay down for 5 minutes. I'm refreshed. I'm ready to go again. And or I guess if it's not aligning with your values, you pivot. So you shift what you're doing, what you're saying, what are you focusing on. And sometimes that's probably the hardest one, because you may have set up a job, a career, a business, a relationship that may not 100% align with you. So within that pivot, it's like taking micro adjustments and shifting you firstly, and just seeing where you can, if using I guess a job as an example, someone's in a job they hate, but they're working on something else that's better, but they're getting caught up in the emotion of the job that they don't like, and it's draining them, so they can't do the other thing. So it's like starting to shift your ideal around what you're doing. You're making some money doing this other work, so then you can support your business or your goals that you're aiming for. So that little pivot helps you to rise up into that space. And so then the last one, once we're in that alignment, from choosing all that stuff, then that's when we take action. So the T in the rest, take an action, aligned action. Your energy's up. You've got the stress in your body is at a space where some people call it the zone, where you're focused, you're more clear, you're more present, and you've got the energy to do that. And that's that eustress, the eustress when we're in the zone of getting things done well and it flows. And that's why I love within that space is like the breath will help you with all of them, to help you get a clearer mind, to help regulate your nervous system, to help you to stop long enough and open up the blinkers of the stress so you can choose and see what you need to select. And then the amazing thing that comes even in a short breathwork journey is the clarity of what's next, because you start to listen to your internal guidance, your compass, which direction do I take next? And then once you take those little actions, you may not have the energy at the start, but once you take little actions, that's when the energy comes in. You don't need to be motivated. If the motivation comes via doing the thing, especially when it's aligned. And so in, I guess, aligning that with breaking through burnout is choosing which direction you're taking, choosing how your body is, doing a body check, just sitting with your body. As Deidre was saying, it's like feeling in the shoulders. Do you feel it in your neck, in your back, in your head? It's just sit with that long enough. And I do this process with a lot of people. Sit with that long enough so you can just tune in, not to psychologize it, just to be aware and go, yeah, I'm feeling some stress. I'm feeling it in my body and my shoulder. Same for me, I feel it here and I get tense to that point where I feel my shoulders lifting up. I remember a mentor of mine used to call it the turtleneck effect. He's like, because there's so much tension and feeling, and you think you're holding the weight of the world on your shoulders, that it's all just you having to do that. And I guess going back to my story of being the savior for the world, is that I now know that, support, connection, and community is way more important and way more effective than trying to do it all by yourself. So I love having you guys here and having these chats. And yeah, nice big tangent. I guess there's part of this where we don't think about a lot. Or maybe as we're getting older, we tend to think about it a bit more, and it's about time. Where do we align our time? Time wealth, so I like to call it. Because if we're pushing hard and working so hard, you're borrowing energy and time from tomorrow. If you're working and pushing yourself hard right now, beyond those three sort of keys, is it fear, fatigue, misalignment, you're just borrowing more energy from the next day. And this is our time. Our body wears down, breaks down, and we need to sit with that and see. We use it in our language, don't we? It's a waste of time. It's taking time. We're spending time. The key element to bypass the financial pressures that we put on ourselves, the time is more important, I believe, anyway.
I would like to bring something back to Philippa. Sorry, Philippa, is it okay? I just wanted to ask something that you said before. Because when you just said that, the borrowing time, etc., I fully get that, when we work beyond our means, in terms of energy, in terms of time and where we are. What you said before, Philippa, really stood out for me. When we become more intentional with our time and with our energy, I just wonder if that truly is preventing us from burnout. Just because I've chosen it, does it really make it less stressful for me? I get that the energy around it is different. I get that the intention around it is different. But I wonder if the capacity that we go to is taking up less energy, if that makes sense. I know you were briefly distracted, Philippa, so I'm not really sure if you got the whole thing. But does it make sense what I'm asking here? Like I'm just putting it out there, wondering if it is not taking us into burnout just because we've chosen it. I wonder, I question it.
I agree. Choice is part of it. And interesting, I learned a while ago this concept that energy is not, you don't get energy, you release it, right? You're an energetic being, and you release energy for the things you need, which is why, if you're running from a tiger, you can release energy and you're going to take it from other pieces, certainly, but we release energy. So it's never, I don't think, a matter of we don't have enough. We just haven't released it for that piece. And if the desire is there, if the joy is there, we can release energy for it. But I think balance is something that so often a lot of us just don't have. And something you said a few months back, Maria, has really impacted how I'm approaching this journey with my husband and his health and all of those pieces that are happening. This idea that we need to release the pressure valve as we go through this process, right? So how do and for me right now, most of that is in fun. And when I talk to at the very last session with all of my clients, I'm like, you are not having enough fun and you need to fix it. And fun forever. I think a lot of adults forget to have fun, and they forget what is even fun for them. And for me, it actually, it rejuvenates my energy. It gives me back energy, where other pieces might take away. So we need balance between what gives us energy and what takes from us that energy. And ultimately, it's about knowing, for me, when I think about the choice piece, I'm not out there to have freedom from. I'm out there to have freedom to. So in this choice, what does it give me freedom to do? As opposed to freedom from, because freedom from has a different feeling in my nervous system, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think if we're creating freedom to, it does feel different. And look, if you were to have no balance in your life and still choose to fill it up with all sorts of stuff that's just going to take from you, then even if because we're choosing whether we know it or not. This is the thing, right? We're all choosing. We're just not all consciously choosing and being intentional about it, right? So for I guess for me, there's a huge piece of wanting to be intentional but have the balance. Sometimes I will simply say I'm the fullness of my week includes, we went to Morton Island last week, And so my before week and after week was a little bit fuller because I wasn't there to do anything for a few days. So there was a little bit more fullness, but it was because there was balance created. I got to sit on the beach and, and put my feet in the sand and sleep in a swag, which maybe wasn't the fullness piece, but anyway, it was fun nonetheless.
Sounded like a great idea at the time.
It was something different, right? And it was with beautiful people, and it filled my cup. And so just being intentional about about those things too, and leaning into that. I'm saying yes to everything I possibly can, that will fill my cup. And, for me, that was also, I went and emceed a conference over the weekend down in Sydney. And I had a blast like that. I mean, it was a lot of effort and energy, and my brain was running the whole time. And there was lots of learnings for me. But I love facilitating a big group of people in that kind of space. So for me, that felt amazingly energetic. It was a great raise of my profile. I got so many cuddles all along the way from all the beautiful doulas who were there.
Love it.
And so, so for me, it was both energy out and energy in, if that makes sense. There was a balance even within the decision to choose to do that piece. So for me, I think the balance has to be there. And we don't do balance very well, I don't think. As a society, culturally, we're not set up for balance at all. That's why we have a 5-day working week and only a 2-day rest week, right? Where in the research all says that particularly if you're over 40, you should only be working a 4-day week.
Yeah.
And you'll get far more. And I can say that, and I'm sitting here at 48, nearly 49, and I'm working a 7-day week most of the time. But I love what I do, and I'm creating, and I'm, I'll just get a thing download, and I'm like, I need to create that before I forget it, and it goes, right? So, but that's aligned with me and what I'm trying to do at the moment, so that alignment piece comes in, Paul, I think.
Yeah, massive. And that's the energy, and that's time is energy. The energy to do is the energy, and it's like especially what you've been speaking on is like, is what we're doing now the investment in our future, or is it a withdrawal? So the time that we're putting in, is it an investment in us getting clear on what we do day by day? And if you're working a 4-day, 5-day, 7-day, 8-day week, the energy you're putting in, the investment is energy. Energy in our time is where it's used best. If we're doing 7 to 8 hour days or weeks, 7-day weeks, 5-day weeks, 4-day weeks, you could have more energy doing 7 if you're in an alignment. If you're doing 4 days and still getting rest days, and you're just as exhausted as if you did 7, then that's the reassessment part, to look at where are you spending your energy, where are you spending your time, where is your focus being drained away from the alignment of who you are and what you value most in your life. And that's what it's all about, really, isn't it? It's going, what do I love most? What matters most to me, and how do I do more of that? Thing I like to say is keep it simple.
Totally. And I have to say, I get a minimum of, I create a minimum of 8 to 9 hour sleep opportunity every night. I minimum, I refuse to have less sleep than that. It doesn't serve me to have less sleep. Now, look, over the weekend, because of the conference, I did. There were times when I only had sort of, a 7-hour sleep opportunity. And because I'm perimenopausal, I wake up through the night. So I almost have to give myself, 9 to 10 hours opportunity in order to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important because, and if I think I've told you before, my greatest joy is when I don't have to set the alarm in the morning. That's freedom too, to me, and just to wake up with my body clock.
Did I'm usually an early riser, but the last 2 weeks there's been a day of the week where I can do the rest. And one morning I woke up, it was nearly 9 o'clock. And I'm like, whoa, it's afternoon. Because for me, sleeping is 6 o'clock generally.
Mm.
So it's like to get to that point and then not to have the kids jump on me. So thank you to my wife for saving me and giving me opportunity.
The small things though,
Amazing.
right? Like
Oh yeah.
when I was picking when do I come back from this conference, and the foundation was paying for it, so I wanted it to be economical for them, and there was two cheap flights. One was at 6 a.m., the other was at 4, like 5:25 or something, right? And I was like, okay, so I could get up at 5, or I could be at the airport at 5. It'd mean getting up at 3:30 after having worked all weekend, pulling long days, or I can rest, I can sleep in, I can ask for a late checkout, and I can go and work on the beach for the day
What did you
and
pick?
go late. I picked option B because even though it meant I wasn't home, earlier with my family, I got to rest and rejuvenate. I got to sit in the ocean breeze and chill
That's
for the
awesome.
day and sleep in and have a spa and, just recalibrate. And that meant that when I got home on Tuesday, I wasn't wrecked. I got home Monday night, but like Tuesday got up and I could just go because I'd already had a rest day, and I'd worked, don't get me wrong, but it was on my own time with my own ideas and thoughts and a couple of meetings, and it was great.
But isn't it interesting that you even get to that point where, like, I work, don't get me wrong. It's almost like you need to justify that you had a day of rest. That I think there's also that in our society that there is often that, but don't get me wrong, I did, or, like that we throw that in. And I think I think it's so amazing that you just took a day off if you worked or not. You know what I mean? I think it's so cool that you did that, that you went for option B and spoiled yourself and had a sleep in and a spa day and sit by the beach.
And it's necessary, and everyone has their own space. For someone, it could
Mm,
be, I'm just going to read a good book or go for a walk in
mm,
nature, or whatever it is. It's just making
mm,
a choice to do that and eliminate the guilt from doing that. And I think that's
mm,
what, like, just tapping into what you're saying there, Marie, is society and people, if you're not working and pushing all the time, then you're not doing stuff, you're not busy.
mm.
Like the start of the conversation, Philippa, was everyone's asked, are you busy? And if you don't say it, they'll
Mm.
tell you that you've been busy. They want to know because
Yeah.
it's an ingrained moment of you must be busy all the time. Otherwise, what are you doing with your life? You are
Mm,
wasting away time by sitting on the beach, enjoying yourself. You're
mm.
wasting time by having a nap. You're wasting time by
How dare you?
recovering. Yeah. And
But
Mm,
that's
that's
because
a
we
big one.
undervalue that, right? We
mm,
undervalue what's actually happening in those moments because it's not
Yeah.
mm,
nothing. Something is happening. We're just not valuing it as highly as doing.
mm,
Um, if we valued rest and restorative activity as much as we valued commercialism, we would all be doing a very different life balance,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
Um,
even if we did nothing and it had no value whatsoever, how bad would that be?
I don't have a problem with it. My mother does. My
I
mother
love
has
it.
a huge problem with it. She
Yeah.
has a problem. Anybody on this property who's not working and she perceives is doing nothing, she's calling a freeloader. And she's toxic with it. It's awful the
Mm,
way the way so and and maybe that comes from her boomer generation. I don't know, but um she and her sister both really hate it. It's like
mm,
maybe it's growing up on a farm where everybody's got to do their bit, but there's a perception
mm,
that it is the most abhorrent thing in the world to do anything that isn't delivering value to other people as well. So, and I think that's an interesting piece there. When I think about that, it's not just, so if I sit on the back deck, I'm delivering value to myself, having a cup of tea and just, contemplating and having my own life, but I'm not being of value to others as far as she would be concerned. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so that piece there really, I think has been what has pushed me for 40 odd years and drove me into repeated burnouts. Thankfully,
I
I'm
think
not there anymore.
it's a great way to sort of wrap things up in a sense, is throughout history, throughout life, throughout our own experiences, to now to try and shift and to move forward is to not attack ourselves when we're feeling tired or fatigued or we need a break, not to override ourselves and to push ourselves just so we can get the next thing done that's going to be there tomorrow anyway. The key is to then reconnect to yourself by sitting and having a cup of tea, by having a nap, by walking on the beach, going for a swim. Doesn't have to be those things, but it's like the reconnecting is bringing back to you, so then you can function better. So you can be a better parent, you can be a better boss, you can be a better partner. And not only that, you're actually better for yourself, because the more you get to regulate your nervous system, your health and your well-being, your immune system boosts up, you breathe better, your mental capacity and function and clarity works 100 times better as well. So to stop, give yourself a break, reconnect, you'll find the motivation, you'll find the drive and I guess the choice in how you feel now is how you want to feel later, is in that single moment of choice, of pausing, pivoting, or pushing. I think it's a great topic, great opportunity for the world to just tap into and to utilize by themselves, by eliminating the guilt and pushing that onto others as well.
Thank you. I really appreciate today.
Yeah. So thank you so much for showing up as always. You guys are amazing. I love where we go with these chats in our minds. And also some big things with the big launches coming up real soon for the new app, the Backyard Peace Project app, which has got all our workshops, programs, past editions of the coaching sessions that you can tap into and have a look at. So sign up now, jump in, stay tuned, because there's going to be continually building and growing and expanding on what we do here, the Backyard Peace Project. So thank you guys for coming. Love your energy.
Awesome.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Tom.
Bye.
See ya.